Imagine a bold truck driver named Lucy traveling across lonely desert highways with her two fiercely loyal, military-trained K9s. Out of nowhere, a ruthless biker gang known as the Night Raisers decides to harass her, expecting easy prey. But Lucy won't back down. She's hiding formidable combat skills from her past. Tensions boil over into thrilling confrontations with roaring motorcycles, high-stakes face-offs, and a dramatic moment when her fearless dogs leap to defend their owner. Will Lucy and her companions outwit this dangerous crew? Or will the gang's relentless pursuit force her into a battle she can't escape? Stay tuned to find out how Lucy turns the tables on these vicious troublemakers. Hit that subscribe button and follow our channel to support us in sharing more gripping stories like this. You don't want to miss how courage, quick thinking, and unwavering loyalty can triumph against the odds. Lucy Caldwell eased her 18-wheeler into the dusty truck stop on the outskirts of a remote highway, the late afternoon sun baking the concrete. She was a striking figure, tall with a confident stance and sun-kissed skin from countless hours on the road. Despite her appealing looks, piercing green eyes and dark hair pulled back into a practical ponytail, Lucy exuded an unspoken toughness that suggested she was not easily rattled. She wore faded jeans, sturdy boots, and a flannel shirt rolled to her elbows, revealing toned forearms that hinted at a life spent laboring rather than lounging. Behind the driver's seat, two large German shepherds stirred. Moxie and Titan, her faithful canine companions, were more than mere pets. Their intelligent gaze followed Lucy's every move. Each carried a calm self-possession, as if waiting for her next signal. An occasional stay from Lucy's lips kept them well-disciplined and silent, though they were obviously alert. Few travelers passing by this remote rest area knew of the dog's extensive military training, and Lucy preferred to keep it that way. Life on the road had taught her that caution and secrecy could be powerful shields. As she climbed down from the cab, Lucy took in the surroundings. This truck stop was like many she'd encountered before. A lone diner with neon signs flickering in the warm evening light, a small convenience store offering snacks and travel essentials, and a row of pumps battered by sandstorms. Off in the distance, the desert stretched endlessly, dotted with sagebrush and cacti. At first glance, everything seemed perfectly normal, lazy, slow, and predictable. But Lucy had traveled enough roads to sense a certain tension in the air. She had heard rumors drifting over CB radio chatter for weeks. A biker gang calling itself the Night Raisers had been moving through small communities and rest stops along the interstate. They were known for petty extortion, intimidation, and sometimes worse. Normally, Lucy avoided trouble by moving quickly from point A to point B, but long hauls required rest, and tonight she felt the need to pause, stretch her legs, and let her dogs have a bit of fresh air. The tension between wanting to rest and staying on guard created an uneasy knot in her stomach, yet she was used to operating on high alert. Inside the diner, a few locals gave her polite nods as she found a table. A middle-aged waitress with kind eyes poured coffee and asked if she needed a menu. Lucy thanked her, scanning the few customers present. Ranch hands, maybe an elderly couple on a road trip, a tired trucker hunched over a plate of fries. Everyone seemed weary, as if anticipating something on the horizon. A quiet word of gratitude from Lucy signaled the start of a short break she hoped would be uneventful. Nevertheless, Moxie and Titan remained in the truck, windows slightly cracked, and Lucy glanced outside regularly to check on them. The hush of the diner, the smell of frying bacon, and the flickering fluorescent lights couldn't entirely mask the feeling that danger might soon arrive. In her past, hidden beneath her truck-driving persona, Lucy had navigated far more precarious situations. With or without her K9s, she was no ordinary woman. Tonight, in this unassuming truck stop, she would soon face a test of everything she'd learned from the life she rarely spoke of. Lucy had just begun to enjoy her coffee when the diner's door swung open with a loud creak. Three men strolled in, wearing dusty leather vests emblazoned with a snarling razor blade logo. Their confident swagger and scanning eyes confirmed Lucy's suspicions. The Night Raisers had arrived. The tallest of the group had a shaved head and a scorpion tattoo trailing down his neck, while the others sported wild beards and an air of unapologetic menace. The moment they entered, the atmosphere shifted. The elderly couple in the corner exchanged worried looks and quietly slurped their soups. The trucker at the counter stiffened. Even the waitress paused mid-pour, her gaze flitting nervously between the newcomers and the other customers. Lucy's grip on her coffee mug tightened. She recalled hearing stories. These bikers would roll into places just like this, sling threats around, demand toll money or special treatment, and make trouble for anyone who dared refuse. The shaved-headed man caught sight of Lucy almost instantly. His dark eyes flickered over her with undisguised interest, a predatory look that made her stomach turn. Though outwardly calm, Lucy felt a subtle rise of her heart rate. She thought about Moxie and Titan, safely in the truck, but resisted the urge to move. It was better not to tip her hand too soon. In her experience, it was wise to appear non-confrontational, at least at first. "Evening, sweetheart," the leader said, sidling up to her booth with a sneer that revealed a crooked front tooth. "You're new around here," Lucy responded with a cool nod. "Just passing through." His companion snickered. The waitress stepped forward, attempting to retain some normalcy. "Could I get you gentlemen something? Coffee or maybe the special?" The leader let out a low laugh. "We might want more than coffee, doll, but let's see what you got." He slid into the booth across from Lucy, effectively cornering her. His movements were casual, yet filled with a sense of ownership over the space. Lucy didn't flinch, but she kept her senses sharp. "I was just leaving," she said, voice measured. "There's plenty of room at the counter if you'd like to sit." He spread his arms over the back of the seat, ignoring her suggestion. "Not so fast. Name's Jack. My boys here are Ringo and Tug. We like to meet pretty travelers, especially when they come through our territory. How about you tell me your name, darling?" Keeping her face neutral, Lucy replied, "It's Lucy," while sliding out from the booth. "I've got a schedule to keep, so if you'll excuse me." Jack shot out an arm, blocking her exit. The entire diner seemed to hold its breath. "Don't be rude. We just want to be friendly. A little conversation never hurt nobody." Inside, Lucy's pulse pounded. Her instincts screamed that these were not empty threats, but a prelude to a more serious confrontation. She felt a pinprick of anger at the way he was hovering too close, sniffing out her every reaction. Yet Lucy also knew better than to throw the first punch, especially with an unknown number of his associates possibly nearby. Instead, she offered a tight smile and slowly stepped away from the booth, leaving a small gap that allowed her to slip free. She set her coffee down with deliberate calm. "Sorry, but I really must go," Lucy said in a tone that brokered no argument. Then, with a measured glance at Jack, she turned toward the door. She knew this was only the first encounter, and the question wasn't if they'd press further, it was when. Lucy stepped outside, scanning the lot from behind her aviator sunglasses. The scorching desert wind brushed across her cheeks, carrying the faint smell of gasoline. To her left, a row of motorcycles gleamed in the evening light, black paint and chrome, as intimidating as the men inside the diner. The sight affirmed what she suspected. There were more than just the three men who had approached her. She counted 6 bikes total, each sporting the same razor blade emblem. Any illusions of a harmless, friendly visit evaporated. She headed for her truck, deliberately keeping her pace relaxed. If these bikers were anything like the rumors suggested, they thrived on fear. Moxie and Titan watched her approach from the window, their ears pricked. Lucy's face softened momentarily as she saw them. She opened the driver's side door, gave each dog a reassuring pat, and unhooked 2 portable water bowls from a compartment. It was time to let them out briefly, but she'd have to stay on high alert. Her hand casually rested near the concealed holster strapped beneath her seat. It was second nature for Lucy to be armed, another habit from her past that she never fully let go. She climbed down with the dogs, each on a sturdy leash. Titan moved with a poised, almost military precision, scanning the environment. Moxie, slightly smaller but no less formidable, wagged her tail slowly, but her keen eyes remained watchful. Both K9s exuded a discipline that set them apart from typical pets. They never lunged or barked unless commanded, and that calm readiness was a testament to Lucy's training regimen. Lucy noted how a couple of local ranchers, who had finished gassing up their truck, gave her a polite wave. She recognized that fleeting moment of neighborly respect people offered when they saw a capable person accompanied by well-trained dogs. It was a small comfort to sense that not everyone around her intended harm. A short distance away, though, she spotted a pair of bikers leaning against their motorcycles, smoking cigarettes. They were eyeing her with a mix of curiosity and dark amusement. When Lucy strolled toward the edge of the lot to let her dogs relieve themselves, she overheard the low rumble of their voices. She couldn't make out the exact words, but the sneers and pointed stares revealed enough. They were talking about her, likely mocking her confidence or maybe planning their next move. Either way, Lucy resisted the urge to react. She needed to gather information first, to gauge how extensive the threat might be. That was a lesson hammered into her during her prior stint in a specialized military unit. Patience was often the difference between survival and disaster. Quickly, she decided not to linger any longer than necessary. She guided the dogs back to the truck, ensuring they had water. Then she stowed them safely inside and tapped a discreet button on her dashboard. It activated a hidden security camera system she had installed around her rig. Lucy might appear like just another long-haul driver, but she had enough modifications to her truck to make a small security force envious. Before pulling out, Lucy considered the next stretch of highway. She had planned to drive through the night and stop at a rest area 100 miles up. Still, the biker presence here nagged at her. Sometimes confrontation was unavoidable, especially if these night raisers felt they had staked a territorial claim. Her best bet might be to slip away now, but experience told her that bullies, once challenged, rarely let their prey go without a chase. Her gut told her this wasn't over. Far from it. Just as Lucy turned the key in the ignition, she saw the diner door swing open. Jack and his two companions emerged, joined by three others, all in matching vests. Their collective appearance sent a ripple of unease through the truck stop's remaining patrons. One of the newly arrived bikers was massive, a burly man with arms thick as tree trunks and a scowl that could curdle milk at 50 paces. Another sported mirrored sunglasses and an arrogant smirk. They spread out across the parking lot as if marking territory, blocking Lucy's direct path to the exit. Lucy's pulse quickened. She felt Moxie and Titan stir in the back, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. The truck stop's meager traffic slowed to a standstill. It was as if time paused, the harsh desert wind punctuating the tense silence. Jack ambled over, arms casually swinging, that same smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. When he reached Lucy's door, she could see mischief dancing in his eyes. "Leaving so soon?" he asked. "We were just getting to know you inside." Lucy kept her engine idling, one foot on the brake. "I've got a delivery to make. Don't want to keep people waiting?" Her voice was even, refusing to betray any anxiety. He leaned in closer, resting an elbow on the door. The distinct smell of cigarette smoke and cheap whiskey wafted into the cab. "My buddies and I just want a little fun. Won't you step out for a chat? We don't bite much." His companions chuckled, forming a loose semicircle around her truck. In a practiced move, Lucy reached under her seat, her fingertips brushing the cool metal of her concealed firearm. She didn't want to escalate things to violence yet, especially not with bystanders present, but she needed the reassurance of having it close. She also knew the dogs in the back would respond with lethal precision if she gave the command. "I don't have time," Lucy repeated, her eyes flicking from Jack to the large man who stood near the front of the truck, arms crossed. "And I'm not looking for trouble." From behind the mirrored sunglasses, the smug one called out, "Too late for that, sweetheart. You see, around here, visitors pay a fee. Think of it as protection if you want to keep your fancy rig safe." He lightly tapped the truck's grill with a boot. The tension ratcheted up as Lucy weighed her next move. A sideways glance told her that the ranchers from earlier had pulled away and were now parked at a safe distance, possibly waiting to see how this played out. No one seemed willing to intervene. Fear often froze people in place, and Lucy didn't fault them. She was, however, growing annoyed. She made a show of turning off the engine and letting out a slow, deliberate breath. Then she pushed the door open, forcing Jack to step back. Standing on the step, Lucy found herself eye level with him. Her tone sharpened. "So what do you want? Money? Or just an excuse to push someone around?" Jack shrugged, unrepentant. "A little of both, maybe. If you know what's good for you, you'll cooperate." Lucy stared back, unwavering. Beneath her outward calm, adrenaline coursed through her. She sized them up, calculating the angles, assessing how quickly she could open the back door and unleash the K9s if needed. A small voice inside her head muttered that the powder keg was close to ignition. One spark, and everything would blow. With careful deliberation, Lucy hopped down onto the asphalt, the warm evening air still hovering on the edge of scorching. Jack backed off a step, either from surprise at her calm or from a flicker of caution. Lucy noticed that his companions fanned out slightly, their hands resting idly on belts or pockets where weapons might be concealed. There was a tense choreography in how they moved, like a pack circling prey. "All right, let's talk." Lucy's voice rang with an air of finality. "We both know what you're asking for. So how much is this fee of yours?" Jack's crooked grin widened. "Why, that depends on how accommodating you are." He cast a lecherous glance over her, a gesture that spiked Lucy's irritation. "Some folks pay in cash, others pay in favors. We're not picky." His men laughed, the sound echoing in the otherwise quiet lot. Lucy kept her features controlled, determined not to let anger or disgust get the better of her. "I'm not interested in favors," she said curtly. "If money will get you to clear out, name your price." Jack glanced at his men as if to confer silently. "Let's say 500, right now." From the corner of her eye, Lucy noticed the biggest biker stepping forward, arms folded. Clearly, intimidation was part of the tactic. But Lucy also saw a teenage boy peering from behind the gas station's door, phone in hand, presumably calling someone. Maybe the cops, maybe a parent. Whatever it was, help wouldn't arrive soon enough to stop what was unfolding. She had to handle this situation carefully. She raised an eyebrow. 500 for safe passage? She paused. "Fine. You'll take the money and let me go?" Jack snickered. "If it looks good, let's see the cash." Lucy reached into her back pocket, extracting her wallet and flipped it open. Jack leaned in expectantly, but the moment his attention wavered, Lucy's other hand snapped up with startling speed. Before any of them could react, she rammed the butt of the wallet straight into Jack's solar plexus, sending him stumbling back with a whoosh of lost breath. The move was fluid, practiced, shades of a skill set that extended well beyond normal barroom brawling. Instantly, the biggest biker lunged. Lucy pivoted, hooking his outstretched arm and using his momentum to spin him sideways. He crashed into the side of her truck with a resounding thud. The others, momentarily stunned, scrambled to respond. Their eyes flicked with shock. This was not the typical scenario where travelers cowered and handed over wads of bills. Lucy's heart hammered, but her mind stayed focused. "I warned you, I'm not looking for trouble," she hissed, stepping back toward her door. She was well aware that open confrontation with a gang was risky, but these men had cornered her, leaving no better option. At least now they might think twice about how easy a target she was. Jack recovered, gasping for air. The pained glare he shot Lucy promised retribution. "Stupid. Move," he spat, wiping a thread of saliva from his lip. "Maybe," Lucy said, "but I'm not paying you a dime. And this ends right now." The circle of bikers tightened again, and Lucy's muscles tensed for the next strike. Her gaze darted to the door of her cab. She considered letting Moxie and tighten out, but the presence of frightened onlookers held her back. She wouldn't risk letting the dogs get hurt or hurting an innocent bystander by unleashing chaos. Still, the dogs were her trump card, a living, breathing deterrent. If these men pushed her any further, she wouldn't hesitate. One of the bikers cursed under his breath. Another cracked his knuckles. Lucy could sense that fear alone wouldn't drive them off. They wanted to prove a point, that no one crossed the night razors. She braced herself, steeling for a more violent turn. Time seemed to slow as the gang prepared for a more serious assault. Jack motioned with his hand, signaling his men to encircle Lucy. She was a lone figure at the center of a dusty parking lot, but behind her calm exterior lay years of advanced combat training. Still, she was outnumbered, and she knew it. A single miscalculation could lead to a bad ending. "Let's teach her some manners," growled the big biker, cracking his neck ominously. The rest began closing in, forming a ring of hostility. Lucy's eyes darted across their positions. "I don't want to hurt you," she said, voice steady but laced with warning. It wasn't bravado, it was a last-ditch effort to avoid a full-scale fight. But bullies rarely back down when their pride is on the line. They lunged almost in unison. One aimed a wild swing at Lucy's head. She ducked low, twisting her body with a dancer's agility, and countered with a strike to his ribs. Another rushed in from her flank, but Lucy sidestepped, forcing him to collide with a third attacker. For a moment it seemed like her precise movements might fend them off. Yet sheer numbers began to take a toll. Jack circled behind her, grabbing her wrist in an iron grip. Lucy gritted her teeth, pivoting to break free, but he held tight. A loud bark shattered the air. In the confusion, Lucy saw that Moxie and Titan had forced open the slightly ajar window, an outcome of the tussle rocking the truck, and jumped to the ground. Their snarling forms dashed forward, bristling with protective fury. Lucy's eyes widened. She had intended to keep them out of harm's way, but they were unbelievably loyal. There was no going back now. Startled by the sudden appearance of two large, disciplined K9s, a couple of bikers froze. Titan leapt onto the biggest man, barking ferociously as he pinned him to the asphalt. Moxie bared her teeth at another, growling in a low, menacing tone. The tide shifted in an instant. Jack released Lucy's wrist, stumbling backward. "What the?" he blurted, apparently stunned by the dog's intervention. The others scrambled to avoid gnashing teeth. Lucy quickly regained her footing, hurrying to Titan's side. With a single hand signal, she kept the shepherd from inflicting serious harm. The dog, though still growling, ceased pressing the man into the ground. Meanwhile, Moxie circled warily, preventing anyone from coming at Lucy's blind side. Lucy's chest heaved with exertion, adrenaline buzzing in her ears. Though the gang was definitely shocked, the confrontation was far from over. She knew this group prided itself on brute force, and they wouldn't leave gracefully just because they were outmaneuvered in this moment. Jack straightened, his expression twisted with anger and embarrassment. "You'll pay for this," he snarled. "You don't know who you're messing with." Lucy held his gaze. "No, you don't know who you're messing with," she snapped back. "Now get out of my way." For a few taut seconds, no one moved. Then, recognizing that Lucy and her K9s held the upper hand, the gang members retreated step by step. Muttering curses and shooting venomous glares, they moved to collect their bikes. The big man limped away, glancing back uneasily at Titan, who still stood at attention, teeth bared. It was a fragile truce, a momentary standoff. As the dust settled, Lucy commanded Moxie and Titan to heel. She wondered if the confrontation had truly ended or merely been postponed. Judging by the hatred etched on Jack's face, she suspected it was the latter. By the time local law enforcement finally arrived, summoned by the frantic teenage bystander who'd been calling from behind the gas station door, the bikers had already pulled out, tires screeching as they tore back onto the highway. A single patrol car rolled up, lights spinning, as a sheriff's deputy emerged, hand on his holster. He scanned the near-deserted parking lot, eyes widening at the sight of Lucy's truck and the churned-up dust where the altercation had taken place. Lucy stood near her rig with Moxie and Titan, the dogs now calm but alert. Her chest still fluttered with residual adrenaline. She gave a measured nod to the deputy as he approached. "Heard there was some trouble," the deputy said, brow furrowed. He was a solid man in his 40s, the lines on his face suggesting a weary acceptance of how rough things could get out here on the highways. "A biker gang, right?" Lucy offered a brief summary, keeping it factual. An attempted shakedown, a brief scuffle, then the bikers fled. She left out specific details about her advanced combat skills. She'd learned long ago that volunteering too much information often created complications. The deputy asked a few follow-up questions, took notes, then sighed. "These night raisers have been a real pain lately. They blow through small towns, cause ruckus, and disappear before we can catch them. We've been trying to coordinate with state troopers, but they're slippery," he admitted. His gaze drifted to Lucy's K9s. "Those dogs yours seem well trained." Lucy nodded. "They were trained for more specialized work before I took them in. We traveled together." The deputy nodded in understanding, but pressed. "You carrying any firearms, ma'am? We have a right to know, given the circumstances." "Just a concealed carry, legally registered," Lucy replied evenly, reaching slowly to show her permit. She'd been meticulous about her documentation. The deputy took a quick look, then handed it back, apparently satisfied. "Well, I suggest you move on soon," the deputy advised, surveying the lot again. "Once these guys get riled up, they sometimes come back with reinforcements. Though I imagine you and your dogs can handle yourselves. No sense inviting more trouble." He paused, then added quietly, "If you stick around, watch your back. They might not be done. Lucy swallowed. She was torn between finishing her route and wanting to ensure nobody else at this truck stop got victimized. Yet she also knew it wasn't her job to protect the entire desert. She had loads to deliver and a life to maintain. "I appreciate the warning," she said. "I'll be cautious." After the deputy left, the tension in the air eased slightly. The diner staff emerged from hiding, and the waitress offered Lucy a shaky thumbs up from the doorway. A few regulars who had witnessed the fight approached to offer thanks or express relief that someone had stood up to the gang. Lucy gave them a polite smile, but she remained guarded. She didn't want to become a local celebrity. In her experience, fame could complicate matters. Deciding it was best to press on, Lucy climbed back into her truck, Moxie and Titan settling in the sleeper behind her. With a roar of the diesel engine, she pulled onto the highway, adrenaline still pulsing through her veins. She tried to refocus on the road, the rhythmic drone of the engine a familiar lull that usually calmed her. Yet her thoughts circled back to Jack and his parting words. "You'll pay for this." In the rearview mirror, the truck stop receded into the distance, a small oasis swallowed by the vast desert. Lucy knew from experience that vengeance often simmered below the surface for men like Jack, who thrived on intimidation. She feared that her display of defiance had only fueled his determination to come after her. For the moment, the road ahead was clear, but the real conflict she sensed was only beginning. 2 days later, Lucy found herself parked at a different rest area, trying to shake off an unsettling sense of being followed. She had stayed vigilant, checking her mirrors for any sign of motorcycles trailing her. Yet the open road can be deceptive. A glance away and someone could slip into your blind spot. Even so, she had managed to meet her last delivery deadline on time, carefully navigating truck stops that felt safe and well lit. Now dusk settled over a lonely stretch of highway, and a pinkish-orange glow painted the horizon. Lucy leaned against her rig, letting Moxie and Titan stretch their legs. She kept a watchful eye on the passing vehicles. The rest area was modest, just a few picnic tables, vending machines, and a row of restrooms. Beyond that, the barren desert extended for miles, broken only by distant silhouettes of rocky buttes. She sipped from a water bottle, eyes drifting to her phone. No missed calls, no urgent messages, yet the sense of a looming threat remained. Moxie suddenly growled, ears pricking forward. Titan let out a low whine, turning his head toward the highway. Lucy stiffened. Her dogs were rarely wrong about danger. A moment later, 3 motorcycles roared off the main road, rolling into the rest area's lot. Their headlights cut through the dimness, revealing the unmistakable razor blade patches on leather vests. Lucy's heart clenched. She recognized one of them as the big man from the previous altercation, the same one Titan had pinned. This time he had 2 different companions with him, including a lanky figure with a bandana covering most of his face. They parked without haste, engines rumbling menacingly. Lucy quietly signaled Moxie and Titan to heel, edging them closer to the truck. Her mind raced. Where was Jack? Had he sent these men to track her down, or was he lurking nearby himself? "Hey there," the big man said, dismounting. "Fancy seeing you again." His tone dripped with sarcasm. He glanced at Moxie and Titan, the memory of their teeth clearly not forgotten. The other 2 bikers fanned out, blocking any easy escape to the main road. Lucy stood her ground. "Not in the mood for round 2, she warned. The man spread his hands in mock innocence. "Relax, sweetheart. We just want to chat." His eyes, however, betrayed the same hostility as before. One of his companions spat on the ground. "Jack says you need to pay up for humiliating us. He's real sore about it, you know. Sent us ahead to deliver a message." Lucy swallowed hard, her stomach knotting. "And what message is that?" The big man smirked. "He's got friends in a more lethal line of work. If you don't comply, it won't just be your rig that's in danger. Folks you care about might have accidents if you catch my drift." She felt her anger rising, hot and immediate. "I don't respond well to threats." "Then maybe you'll respond to force," the man growled back, flexing his thick arms. In one smooth motion, Lucy grabbed hold of Titan's leash, letting him advance half a step. Moxie followed suit. Their growls rumbled in unison, a living wall of teeth and muscle. The men hesitated, but hatred still burned in their eyes. Lucy didn't need more evidence. This was clearly an organized vendetta. Jack wanted revenge and had sent scouts to corner her. The desert wind carried the echo of distant thunder, as though nature itself anticipated the coming storm. Lucy's lungs constricted with the realization that a more calculated showdown was on the horizon. And from the look of it, it would be a battle she couldn't avoid. The next day found Lucy in the dusty parking lot of a faded motel, a stone's throw from a weather-beaten tavern that advertised cold beer and pool tables. The sun was going down, painting the desert in muted reds and purples. As she unpacked a few essentials from her truck, her phone buzzed, a rare call from an old friend. "Lucy, I heard you might be in some trouble," said the familiar voice on the line. It was Rita, a fellow veteran from Lucy's old unit. They'd served together overseas, where Lucy's uncanny talent for training K9s had saved them more than once. Lucy exhaled a shaky breath. "Word travels fast, huh?" "Faster than you think," Rita replied. "You know how to handle yourself, but rumor says these bikers have connections with a bigger cartel. You need backup?" Lucy glanced at Moxie and Titan, who were perched alertly by the truck. "I've got some backup already," she joked half-heartedly, earning a chuckle from Rita. But then her tone sobered. "I won't say no if you're close by." Rita didn't hesitate. "I'm a few hours out. Got a couple of our old pals in the region too. We'll make some calls." Lucy smiled, a wave of relief washing over her. Ending the call, she thought back to the specialized training, covert missions, and the camaraderie that had forged bonds stronger than blood. She hadn't wanted to rely on that past life, but sometimes the present forced your hand. If Jack was truly connected to a more dangerous network, Lucy needed more than just 2 dogs to watch her back. Shortly before midnight, the tavern next door erupted in noise. Engines revved, curses rang out, and Lucy's stomach twisted. Through the thin curtains of her motel window, she saw a line of motorcycles, maybe 8 or 9, roll into the parking lot. The night raisers were multiplying. She wondered if Jack himself was among them this time, orchestrating a grand show of force. Unease churned in her gut, but Lucy had prepared carefully. She'd scouted the terrain around the motel, noting multiple exit routes. She had positioned her truck so that its camera system could monitor the entire lot. Moxie and Titan sensed her tension, pacing inside the motel room, ears alert to the commotion outside. Lucy quietly checked her sidearm, then donned a bulletproof vest she typically kept locked away. She wished she could just leave, but running would solve nothing. The gang would likely give chase or find a way to track her. Standing her ground seemed the only viable option until Rita arrived. A knock shattered the stillness of her room. Lucy froze, hand on her holster. Another knock, more insistent this time, followed by muffled voices. She peeked through the peephole to see the motel manager, an older woman with fear etched on her face. "Miss Caldwell?" the woman called softly. There's a group outside looking for you. They said they'd torch the place if you don't come out." Lucy's heart hammered. She weighed her options, then cracked open the door. The manager clutched her robe, trembling. "I don't want any trouble here. Please, maybe you should just go." Lucy nodded. "I understand. I'm sorry you got dragged into this. Let me see what I can do." Moxie and Titan stood at her side, waiting for a cue. Lucy stepped into the corridor, steeling herself. The murmur of engines rumbled through the walls. It felt like standing on a volcano about to erupt. Bracing for the showdown she knew was coming, Lucy took a step toward the parking lot, every nerve taut. She wasn't sure how long until Rita arrived, but she hoped she could hold out until then, or find a clever way to turn the odds in her favor. Outside, the desert night was deceptively cool, the moon casting ghostly shadows across the motel lot. A dozen bikers sprawled around their motorcycles, engines still running like a chorus of impending doom. Front and center stood Jack, the glint of his scorpion tattoo visible beneath the flickering neon motel sign. His expression was pure malice, the earlier humiliation simmering into a thirst for revenge. Lucy squared her shoulders, trying to project confidence even as her heart pounded. Moxie and Titan flanked her, their postures tense. A hush fell over the group when they noticed her arrival. The roar of engines subsided to idle grumbles, as though anticipating the spark that would light the powder keg. Jack sneered, pointing at Lucy with a lazy flick of his wrist. "You've been real busy, haven't you?" he drawled. "Making calls, maybe." Think you can bring in reinforcements to scare us off? You're on our turf now, sweetheart. Lucy didn't rise to the bait. This is a public motel. You're the ones trespassing and making threats. His eyes narrowed. You're not in a position to lecture me, lady. You humiliated us. You had your mutts tear into my men. That don't go unanswered. He gestured to the group. We've got more riders on the way. You can't take us all on. Blood pounded in Lucy's ears, but she forced herself to stay composed. I don't want a war. Walk away, and nobody gets hurt. Jack let out a bark of laughter. Hurt? We plan on doing a lot more than just hurt. Then his tone dropped, menacing. Unless you'd like to negotiate again, maybe we'll spare this dump if you come with us quietly. Lucy's jaw clenched. The mere suggestion turned her stomach. No deal. He raised a hand, and half a dozen bikers began advancing, weapons visible. One held a crowbar, another a length of chain. The others brandished knives or wore brass knuckles. Lucy glanced at her K9s. She didn't want them to get overwhelmed, but she might have no choice but to let them defend her. Her hand hovered near her firearm. Last chance, Jack warned. Pay the price, or we do this the hard way. Lucy met his glare. I'm done being extorted. Jack's lips curled in a feral grin. So be it. Two men rushed forward, chains rattling. Titans sprang to meet them, Lucy's command echoing in the night. The dog's agility was stunning. He dodged a swing of the chain and lunged, forcing the attacker to drop his weapon. Moxie bounded to intercept the second assailant, sinking her teeth into his forearm with precise control. Chaos erupted. Several bikers lunged at Lucy from different angles. She sidestepped one, delivering a sharp elbow to his ribcage, then pivoted to block another's downward swing with her forearm. The shock vibrated through her bones, but she countered with a swift kick, sending him sprawling. A gunshot cracked the air, echoing across the deserted highway. Lucy dove behind a parked motorcycle, adrenaline spiking. She peered around, trying to identify the shooter. Jack stood near the neon sign, pistol raised. His shot had gone wide, likely a warning or an attempt to make Lucy duck for cover. Suddenly, headlights beamed at the edge of the lot. Multiple vehicles screeched in, doors flung open. Lucy's heart soared with relief when she recognized Rita's voice barking orders. Three more figures emerged, fellow veterans from Lucy's old unit, each carrying the confident poise of battle-tested professionals. In seconds, they took up positions around the perimeter, firearms drawn but carefully aimed to avoid friendly targets. The bikers halted, glancing at each other in surprise and alarm. Jack's bravado faltered. Rita stepped forward, leveling a stern gaze. You messed with the wrong woman, she said, her voice cutting through the night. Drop your weapons, or we drop you. Weapons clattered to the ground in a reluctant surrender. One by one, the bikers realized they were cornered. Titan still held the chain-wielding man pinned, while Moxie stood guard, growling at any who dared move. Lucy stood, catching her breath, grateful for the timely arrival of her old comrades. Jack glared defiantly, but with no escape route and outgunned by trained professionals, he had little choice. The wail of sirens in the distance spelled the gang's fate. Soon, local and state law enforcement would arrive in force, alerted by Rita's coordinated calls. In that tense standstill, Lucy felt a surge of triumph. Not the triumph of violence, but of defending what was right. She approached Jack slowly, Moxie and Titan at her side. I tried to warn you, she murmured, meeting his venomous stare. Never underestimate who you're bullying. Jack spat on the ground, rage contorting his face. But as the sirens drew closer, he had no snappy comeback left. His empire of intimidation was collapsing before his eyes. In the days that followed, authorities dismantled the Night Razor's operations across multiple counties, aided by evidence collected from Lucy's truck cameras and Rita's testimony. Some bikers were prosecuted, others fled. Locals breathed a collective sigh of relief, and the lonely truck stops along the highway seemed a little safer again. Lucy, for her part, never sought recognition. She thanked her old friends, parted ways, and returned to the open road. Driving off into the sunrise, Moxie and Titan lounging contentedly in the sleeper, she felt a deep satisfaction that she hadn't compromised her values. She believed in living simply, driving cargo from place to place, and keeping her past low-key. But if trouble came knocking, and it often did in the unpredictable stretches of highway, Lucy would always be ready to stand her ground. Some nights, after hours of solitude on the asphalt, she recalled the conflict with a calm acceptance. She'd done what she must to protect herself and others. In a world where bullies still roamed free, Lucy's quiet heroism was a reminder that courage and conviction could reside in the most unassuming individuals. And so the road carried her onward, a silhouette against the infinite desert sky. She was just another truck driver to most who saw her pass. Yet those who knew the truth realized she was far from ordinary. She was a guardian with unwavering resolve and two loyal, military-trained K9s by her side. And that was more than enough to face whatever lay ahead. Looking back on Lucy's journey, it's clear that strength and determination can flourish in the unlikeliest of places. By staying true to her values and relying on both her training and her remarkable K9 partners, Lucy protected herself and the innocent people caught in the night raiser's path. In the end, her quiet heroism reminded everyone that standing up for what's right often requires more than physical might. It demands heart, loyalty, and a willingness to risk everything for others. We hope this story has left you feeling inspired to face life's challenges head-on. If you enjoyed this adventure, please consider sharing your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspectives and keep the discussion alive. Remember to subscribe for more captivating tales, and thank you for joining us on this unforgettable ride.